So I don't know if you've ever heard that saying that failure is not an option. You probably played in sporting events or been involved in some sort of competition or something where the stakes are pretty high, that you had to win, that you had to do well, that you had to succeed, achieve that which was your focus. This is the Warrior Podcast, episode 111. We're going to talk about how failure is not an option when it comes to the life we're to lead as warriors for God's glory. See, you can look at the Christian walk, the walk of faith, as being optional. You can, but it's not biblical. It's not biblical at all. It's not biblical to not produce fruit. See, the stakes are very high. If we were to read John 15 of the Gospels, Jesus there is sharing how he is the vine and we're the branches, and that we are a part of him, and that we have to abide in him, that we have to remain in him. Now, this is very nice philosophical and spiritual language, and I'm not undermining that at all because it's beautiful. But it speaks to a larger focus that the whole purpose of abiding in him, remaining in him, being attached to him is to produce fruit, i.e., results, right? We're told that you can judge a tree by its fruit. You don't have to know what type of tree it is. If you look at its fruit, you can therefore tell what tree it is. So the question for myself and for you and for anyone else that we come into contact with is, what is your fruit? What type of fruits are you producing? What kind of results are you seeing in your life? Now, before we get lost, I know that there's a crowd out there who will say, oh, this is works-based righteousness. Nope, not at all. It's grace-based righteousness. See, apart from Jesus, you can do nothing. It goes on to say in John 15:5. So if we understand that apart from Christ, there is no production of fruit, but it doesn't deny the production of fruit, does it? It still says there's going to be fruit, and you can judge a tree by its fruit. So the failure to produce fruit as a believer, those who abide in Christ, is not an option. See, we're taught that the Father is the vine dresser. If Jesus is the vine and we're the branches, then the Father is the vine dresser, and he prunes and cultivates those vines that produce fruit so that they can produce more fruit. See, this talk is kind of out there. So let's talk a little bit about some fruits that may exist, some results. We know that in Matthew 18, I know I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit. We know that Matthew 18 talks a little bit about what we consider church discipline. But in this concept of church discipline, it's fellowship between believers where there's some sort of fellowship breach. And so that one goes to the one that has a problem with him or vice versa, and he goes to him and tries to reconcile. And if he doesn't hear him, what does he do? Grabs another brother or sister, goes before that person and says, we need to reconcile. If they don't hear them then, they take them before the church. If they don't hear them then they are to treat them as a publican and a heathen, basically cut them off. And then John 15 tells us that the vine will wither, the branch will wither and fade and to be thrown into the fire. Now, I don't know what throwing the fire means there. You could let your imagination run wild. I'm sure there's some sort of theological debate on what that is. That's not my point of what I want to say here. What I want to say here is that we need to be constantly looking to produce fruit by what? Abiding in Christ and abiding in Christ's mission, because we're told that in order to be his disciples, we must what? Deny ourselves, take up our cross, and follow him daily. So failure is not an option. There's no optional following of Christ. There's no optional abiding in Christ. There's no optional production of fruit. We're to produce fruit. What's some other fruit? We know that in Galatians 5, we're told that the fruit of the Spirit, the non-fruit of the Spirit, one fruit, non-descriptive words for it. We know that we're to be people that show love to one another and will be known by that. Jesus says that they will know you by your love for one another. He also says that a tree will be known by its fruit. We're starting to see some connections here. He also tells a story of those that had talents that were given to them. They had to double up on them, and that the one that did not do that, that buried it, sat on it, that he was cast away as a wicked servant. So hopefully you can start to see that we got to produce fruit, fruit of righteousness, right living, right path walking. For he leads us in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. What is to be on the path of righteousness? That we're gaining ground in this area. Does that mean not cussing, not drinking, not prostituting around? Sure, but I think that's the least of all the ones we're talking about here. The problem is a lot of times we're known for what we're against, not what we're for. We're known for the fruit that we don't produce. Like, I don't produce that fruit, I don't produce that fruit, I don't produce that fruit. What fruit do you produce? Jesus didn't say they will know them by the fruits they don't produce, but the fruit they will produce. They'll be known by their fruit. Deep thoughts. Hopefully it impacts you as it does me. Ultimately, we walk in God's grace. We plant and water knowing that only God shows the increase. We see this production, this agricultural narrative, which is the same: planting, watering, producing. God produces, but the planting and the watering is ours to do. That we're to be faithful and walk in that. We're to walk in the Spirit, not sit and be carried in the Spirit. For it is God who works in you both to will and to do for his good pleasure. All right, guys, you're a warrior, designed for glory, designed to produce fruit unto righteousness. So go walk in it, because failure is not an option. As always, guys, if you like the content, like, share, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll continue to put it out. God be with you. Stay in the fight. Peace.